people of all races. We want Oklahoma and the world to know that Daniel is innocent of each and every one of the false allegations against him. And we believe that all the powerful people directly involved in his wrongful conviction know it. We will continue our quest to hold them accountable and free Daniel. Justice took a brutal blow today with the court's rejection of Daniel's criminal appeal. There is no doubt about that, but we will fight for Daniel, for reform of the criminal justice system, and reform of the Oklahoma City Police Department and Crime Lab, so that Daniel and no other innocent person will suffer imprisonment for crimes they did not commit. We ask the media and the public to research Daniel's case and report on it accurately and fairly so that justice prevails. Please do not believe the prosecution's biased claims. In wrongful conviction after wrongful conviction, media and the public are misled by the prosecution's narrative, and this occurred in Daniel's case as well. Please look at how Daniel's police department, the Oklahoma City Police Department, conducted its bias investigation, seeking out accusers and leading them to make allegations that the police pinned on Daniel. A police lieutenant stated the reason investigators didn't show an accuser a photo lineup was, quote, because we were afraid she might not pick Holtzclaw. Detectives prejudged Daniel as guilty after hearing the unsubstantiated allegations of a single accuser who is a lead plaintiff suing the city in a high-dollar federal civil lawsuit. Detectives concluded after a single 2-hour interrogation of Daniel, without any scientific or professional corroboration, that he was a sociopath and serial rapist, despite passing his police academy psychological evaluation and showing zero history of signs of sociopathic, misogynist, predatory, or violent behavior. Detectives persisted in the belief that they were dealing with a sociopath and serial rapist, despite coming up empty in an extensive search for a witness dating back to Daniel's college and high school days who would corroborate the detectives' conclusion. Detectives hunted for accusers based on arbitrary victim profile, grounded in science or sound investigative principles, and entirely fabricated and then concluded without justification that the targets were African American women with significant criminal histories, including prosecution or drug use, and then narrow the focus of the investigation to this demographic. Detectives tipped off accusers that they were searching for a bad guy with lots of victims, and that they were possibly sexually assaulted by an Oklahoma City police officer. Not only did detectives ignore troubling discrepancies by unreliable accusers who described their assailants as black and short, dark-skinned, or of dark color, but they also failed to follow up on other potential suspects within the police department who matched that description. The public needs to know that Daniel received the most number of years for the accuser who said the officer that raped her was short and black. Daniel is neither short or black. It is mind-boggling for us to read that the Court of Criminal Appeals believes jurors came to a reasonable decision on that charge and all the others, which were unduly influenced by the lone piece of indirect DNA evidence tied to a single accuser. Detectives and prosecutors piled together unreliable, non-credible accuser in the absence of eyewitness and forensic corroboration and without expert linkage analysis. The failure of trial lawyer Scott Adams to object to the joinder of all cases doomed Daniel's case. The court failed to comprehend how the pile-on was purposely designed to lump together a bunch of allegations solicited by police and unsupported by any forensic evidence or corroborating witnesses. Detectives mishandled crucial evidence when one lead detective inserted his bare hands into an evidence bag into which Daniel's uniform pants and belt were packaged. As a result, cross-contamination may have caused DNA to transfer to the fly of the uniform pants. We especially urge the public and the media to learn about innocent DNA transfer, which is a scientifically studied, known, and proven phenomenon accepted by scientists all over the world and acknowledged by more and more informed judges and lawyers across America. Read the report on scientific issues in the case of Oklahoma versus Daniel K. Holtzclaw by an international panel of forensic experts, including world-renowned Dr. Peter Gill, available at holtzclawdnareport.com. When you ignore science, you too may find yourself wrongfully convicted because of a tiny quantity of someone's DNA that transferred innocently into your clothing or other evidence item. I want to talk more in detail about the DNA evidence in the Sixth Amendment, which guarantees every criminal defendant the right to effective counsel. In other words, a competent attorney mounting a competent defense. More than 2 years ago, on February 1st, 2017, Daniel filed his appeal of his convictions for alleged sexual assaults that his police department, succumbing to tunnel vision, pinned on him despite numerous problems with the evidence. Daniel's appellate attorney, James Lockard, and Michael Moorhead requested the court to grant an evidentiary hearing on one of the main reasons that Daniel's trial was unfair. Daniel's trial attorney failed to challenge the prosecution's multiple representation of the trial's most crucial evidence, a minute quantity of DNA on the fly of Daniel's uniform pants. In a sworn 10-page affidavit, highly regarded forensic biologist and DNA expert Dr. Michael Spence expressed the state's faulty and unsound presentation, scientifically unsound presentation of the DNA evidence. We are deeply disappointed that the court did not grant an evidentiary hearing and went straight to denying Daniel's appeal. This means that the court did not reach a fair decision because it refused to listen to the evidence about the severity of the prosecution's DNA analyst errors and Daniel's trial attorney's failure to challenge them. The prosecution's mischaracterization of the DNA made it appear to have derived from vaginal fluid, even though no evidence of body fluid was detected, and the DNA was best explained by innocent DNA transfer via Daniel's hands to uniform pants after pat searches of other non-intimate contact. The prosecutor told the jury untruthfully that the vaginal fluid had transferred the DNA. This false claim led to guilty verdicts by misleading the jury. A juror admitted in a media interview after the trial that he believed there was a vaginal fluid, saying, quote, "Well, I'm not a DNA expert. They told us it was DNA from a vaginal fluid from a 17-year-old. The state's DNA analyst errors, prosecutorial misconduct, and ineffective assistance of trial counsel alone warranted a new fair trial for Daniel. The district court, judge, and prosecution failed to protect Daniel Holtzclaw's constitutional right to a fair trial, which was conducted with a circus mob atmosphere, and intimidating protests occurred inside and outside the courtroom. We are stunned that the Court of Criminal Appeals so flippantly dismissed the impact that the out-of-control protesters shouting, quote, "Give him life," and "racist cop" and "racist jury" had on Daniel's constitutionally protected right to a fair trial. The city even approved a protest permit for activists outside the courtroom, and the trial judge, who knew about it, refused to change the venue as courtroom infiltrators took photos of jurors. The trial court judge, Oklahoma Attorney General's Office, Oklahoma County District Attorney's Office, and Oklahoma City Government Attorney, and top police officials, including the crime lab supervisor, all met in secret in June 2017 during secret hearings that Daniel and his attorneys were banned from attending. Following the secret hearings, local TV stations reported that the emails of the crime lab analysts of the Center of the Forensic Science in Daniel's case were destroyed. Only a fraction that have been released. Unsealed court documents revealed that the crime lab analysts' alleged personnel files were the focus of the secret hearings. But the transcripts of those hearings are still hidden from the public and from trained and informed scientists who are best equipped to access information related to her DNA analysis and testimony. We are alarmed that the Court of Criminal Appeals treated the sham secretive process as nothing more than a footnote in its ruling when it should be front and clear. It can happen to Daniel, it can happen to anyone. This cannot stand in Oklahoma or in America. Daniel and our family want to thank all the people, lawyers, scientists, journalists, friends, and supporters all over the world who are fighting for Daniel. Looking to the future, we are beyond thankful to attorney Kathleen Zellner and associates who have taken up Daniel's case and are advocating for him as attorneys. Kathleen Zellner never gives up, and neither will we. Truth will win out. We will never give up believing that Oklahomans care about justice. We will fight for Daniel until he is free. And we ask you to join us for Daniel's sake, for your own safety, and for justice. Please continue to follow the case while we continue to fight for Daniel's freedom. You can also follow my Facebook page, Daniel Holtzclaw, and more information on freedanielholtzclaw.com. If you want to write to him, you can at P.O. Box 1193, Poway, California, 92074. Yes.
Well, what we're planning on doing is talking with our attorneys, and then we'll go to a post-conviction relief and go through the federal system and hopefully right this tremendous wrong that's occurred here in the Oklahoma judicial system.
How much of a gut punch was this? Because it sounded like leading up, everyone was pretty hopeful that he would get a new trial, and that decision comes down.
We're devastated. There's no doubt about it. Our family is. We know that we've had an uphill battle with the courts initially when we applied for the evidentiary hearing. They battled us on every point and pillar that we had, and again, we're going to hopefully the right outcome will come out in our next step as we go along.
Have you talked to him? Have you talked to Daniel today? Does he have a reaction to this?
He's devastated, obviously. We weren't prepared for this, I guess you could say. We were very hopeful that the justice system would have done Daniel right this time around. And we're going to continue fighting for him and continue on to the next steps and never give up until Daniel's free, because he deserves freedom. He is innocent of all charges that were brought against him.
I think if you go back and not look at what was thrown out to you all as the media initially, and just going with a narrative that was created by the persons within the police department, and really look into the case, you'll see how could this ever gone to court. There's just a lot of things that went wrong with this, and they just continue on through the court at this point.
But kind of step after step, seemingly going against you guys, how hard is it for you guys and for Daniel to stay positive through this whole process?
We know he's innocent. That's the big thing. He is 100% adamant about it. Our family is. It's tough.
What do you make for what's your reaction to the judge calling him a sexual predator at the end of the opinion?
You tell he was already predestined before he even made his ruling, that he got caught up in what the initial investigators said after a 1-hour interview, labeling him as a predator or a sexual deviant. How can a police detective even make that kind of assessment? That has been carried along through this whole case. It's just you throw enough stuff at the wall, something's going to stick, and that's what they did.
We know it's a long journey ahead of us. Wrongful convictions usually to overturn takes usually between 11 and 14 years. So we know this is a long road ahead of us. We were hoping that it wouldn't take that long and we would be able to get right into a new trial. We're hoping for the next good outcome on our next step in freeing him.
What are y'all in your conversations and telling him to try and keep him staying positive through this long process?
Well, he knows what happened out there, and somebody that's innocent is not going to stand for this. He's going to continue to work and continue to be positive. He has to stay positive where he's at. He's in a prison, and it's not conducive to somebody that's innocent, in there. So it's been a tough time for him. We just tell him to stay positive. We tell him he has lots of supporters, and they are growing out here. They know we have people from all over the world. We have police officers from other agencies that see what's going on. We have police officers across the world, and they're just as concerned about this as we are. that an officer can be accused of something without any physical evidence and get 263 years for this. This is very, very alarming, and it could happen to anybody, and we want this wrong righted as soon as we can.
What amazes me is that in Oklahoma, you can be convicted of a crime that never happened.
Yeah. The attorneys on the other side of us told us earlier that this opinion by the judge would be pretty decisive in proving Daniel was guilty. Do you think you'll still be able to prove he's innocent going forward?
Absolutely. We have experts, world-renowned experts that are involved in Daniel's case that have looked at the evidence thoroughly. They have written a scientific report. It's on HoltzclawDNAreport.com, and that they have looked at everything, and they believe in Daniel. They have written their statements about it. Yeah, absolutely. There, without a doubt.
Can I say one thing on that real quick? I think you hit the nail on the head there. As you said, basically, are they going to be able to prove his innocence? Well, that's not how it's supposed to work, right? They're supposed to be able to prove that he's guilty. And I think that's something that the court acknowledged today unwittingly as you go through and you actually read their opinion, as they stated things along the lines of, basically they made an accusation, so therefore, there was evidence sufficient enough to continue on with the trial and to achieve that conviction. But it's funny, as they go forward and they talk about things like juries being swayed by the circus-like atmosphere, they kept saying things along the lines of, well, we can't really prove that these jurors were swayed by the people chanting outside the courtroom or taking their photographs or hearing things about how they're a racist jury being chanted consistently. So the Court of Criminal Appeals asks, on one hand, that there'd be evidence, that'd be sufficient proof of a juror basically coming forward and saying, hey guys, I screwed this up, which we all know isn't going to happen. They basically acknowledged this was completely inappropriate. The counsel should have objected to it but didn't, which would basically prove the ineffective counsel piece of it that was part of Daniel's appeal. And they also said that they basically want somebody from the jury basically to come forward and say, hey, we made a mistake and we were swayed inappropriately, which is not going to happen. They recognize something bad happened, but they refuse to do anything about it. And this whole case from beginning to end, and it's continuing to be a case of guilty until proven innocent. And that's just completely inappropriate. That's not how our country's legal system is founded. And in this case, it was basically a he said, she said, that when the detectives, through their bias, decided that they were going to continue and push this case, and they assumed maybe he's a serial rapist and started, finding these females and feeding them, as it says in the transcripts of the court case, we have an anonymous tip. You may have been sexually assaulted by a police officer. He's got a lot of victims, really bad guy, really got to catch this guy. And then a lot of these women decided they would become victims, most likely to help support the narrative. The whole thing of guilty until proven innocent has been a theme of this case. And as you look at it from me as a police officer, when I initially saw this case, I thought he was guilty just like everybody else did. I mean, I had all these people who were accusing him, and only when I actually looked into the details of the case did I realize that this was manufactured through bias and incompetence to get to the point where it is. So you hit the nail on the head. It's a case of guilty until proven innocent. So it makes it very difficult when Daniel's trying to prove his innocence, which, how do you possibly do that? But like Jenny said, there are world-renowned scientists who are coming to Daniel's defense saying this was interpreted incorrectly. There are people who are pointing out that in the very crime analyst's own report, she made false statements in the courtroom about that report that do not reflect to what it says on her initial analysis, stating that, for example, or neglecting to state that there was unidentified male DNA on the fly of Daniel's pants. Most people don't know that. Well, it wasn't Daniel's DNA. Are we saying he sexually assaulted males now? Or, as the experts are saying, is it more likely that he transferred the DNA there himself by just merely touching the fly of his pants when he had to take them off or use the restroom? So it's a difficult case because you're trying to prove innocence. I wish they had tried to prove guilt in the first place. I think we would be in a very different spot.
Do you have a timeline for when you didn't know Daniel next round?
I don't know Daniel now. I didn't know him. I thought he was guilty. I was grateful enough that I accidentally came across a documentary about him on YouTube, and I watched it thinking I was going to debunk it. I thought I was like, it was during 2016, tense political climate. People are picking sides left and right, and I thought, you know what? Somebody's picking the wrong side on this one. I'm appreciative of people who support the police, but this is wrong. And then I looked into Daniel's case and realized I was wrong because I'd been given bad information at the get-go. And as I checked that documentary sources as well as the originating sources like the transcripts and things like that, and listened to the people give their own interviews for sympathetic sources who treated the detectives like heroes, I realized that Daniel's rights were violated. He did not commit the crimes he was accused of committing.
Do you have a timeline for when you might file the next round of appeals?
We'll be discussing that with our attorneys here in the next couple of weeks. The sooner the better. It'll probably happen sometime this summer, but we'll have to discuss that with our attorneys. You guys have anything else?
Okay.
I appreciate y'all coming out, giving us the time to say our side of the story, and we appreciate it. I know it's been tough on you guys too. You get the brunt from both sides, so we do appreciate that you would come out and at least give us our time to explain what we think is unfair and unjust. And we hope that, however long it takes through the federal system, and that we see Daniel free and you'll come back out and talk to us again. It's going to be a long journey. We know it through the federal courts it is. And we're prepared to do that. Our family's standing united with Daniel. And we're going to get through this. And he's going to be free.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.